Planning students interested in cities are faced with what seems to be an insurmountable task. After all, how does one attend to the myriad of issues facing cities? Poverty, crumbling infrastructure in the U.S., racial and economic tension, immigration, environmental sustainability, economic collapse. This is further complicated when the planner is also rooted in a desire to transform cities and society to be increasingly more just and equitable. For the emerging planner, there is a continued question of what the profession offers by way of skills, tools, understanding, and yes, power, to do more than what Friedman suggests, deliberately transfer knowledge to action in the public domain for the purpose of moving towards a shared vision of good society. Instead, these planners are interested in the questions of how, as planners, can we be actively engaged in transforming the structures, relationships, and power imbalance that perpetuates the lack of social and economic justice in the world. The approach of many emerging planners is to ask, what theoretical tradition does one want to adhere to? Or, when we are being most honest with ourselves, which tradition do we most practice? The goal, of course, is to figure which of the two planning traditions one falls into, planning as social guidance or that of planning as social transformation. But as Sandor reminds us, there is a relationship between planning for social guidance and planning for social transformation. There is, as she states, an unresolved and unresolvable tension between the transformative and repressive powers of state-directed planning practices and their mirror image, the transformative and also repressive potential of the local, the grassroots, and the insurgent. The tension that Sandor refers to is what American Indian movement founder and activist Russell Means calls the same old song. In July of 1980, before several thousand people, we had assembled from all over the world for the Black Hills International Survival Gathering in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Russell Means had the following to say about theoretical traditions. You cannot judge the real nature of a revolutionary doctrine on the basis of the changes it proposed to make within the European power structure and society. You can only judge it by the effect it will have on non-European peoples. This is because every revolution in European history has served to reinforce Europe's tendency and abilities to export destruction to other peoples, other cultures, and the environment itself. What Means is asking us to keep in mind is that whenever theoretical traditions emerge out of the same society, they in actuality are not that different at all and are part of what he considers the same old song. So then how do we create a new song? One that is capable of breaking new ground and moving us in a new direction. For me, the answer to the question is contained within a framework of what I call liberation planning. Liberation planning is different from radical planning. Where radical planning asks that the planner act with community to transform society. Liberation planning asks that not only do we engage in social transformation, but that it is done primarily by working with and orienting the work around the poor and those least served in our society.
No one would like to admit that there is a city underground.
Moreover, liberation planning suggests that our understanding of planning must be derived from how it impacts and changes the condition of the poor, and in turn changes us.
Here in Sub City, life is hard. We can receive.
Thus, while radical planning may ask, have we fully engaged the voice and knowledge of the poor in a particular planning process, liberation planning will ask, what do we understand of our knowledge of planning and of ourselves as planners by virtue of our effort to work with and to serve the poor? To engage in liberation planning is to be committed to a lifelong dialogue with oneself and one's profession and the poor. The dialogue is one of holding each of these actors accountable for the conditions of the poor and each responsible for engaging each other to alleviate the conditions of the poor. The metric of success in liberation planning is not merely the transformation of the social system, but the transformation of the individuals engaged in transforming society. Liberation planning, in borrowing from liberation theology, suggests there is an important role for faith.
Come on.
Planning and the planner's action are not merely determined by technical or social skills, but also by issues of faith, values, and principles. Each of these must continually be visited and examined for its ability to transform the conditions of the poor and to support the creation of a more just and peaceful world. Without such an orientation, planning practice approaches, no matter what they call themselves, are merely, as Mean says, the same old song, and thereby will produce the same results. The question then for every planner who is interested in social justice in a more peaceful and just world is, how do we create a new song and thereby ensure new results? I'm Caesar McDowell, and in the words of Woody Guthrie, take it easy, but take it.